and many more involving a Chinese energy company, which we will get into in the interview with Steve Bannon, were recovered from a laptop that was reportedly dropped off at a repair shop in Delaware in 2019 before it was handed over to the FBI. It was said to be a water-damaged MacBook Pro, and the person who dropped it off never paid for the service, and he didn't return to retrieve it or a hard drive on which the contents were stored. This is according to the shop owner, who said he repeatedly tried to contact the client.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
The origins of this whole smear are from the Kremlin, and the president is only too happy to have Kremlin help in trying to amplify it. I think we know who the driving force behind this smear has been all along, and it's been the president and the Kremlin. He's been the gift that doesn't stop giving for the Kremlin. And this particular smear, though, has also been acknowledged to come from the Kremlin. And there it is in the Oval Office, another wonderful propaganda coup for Vladimir Putin, seeing the President of the United States holding up a newspaper promoting Kremlin propaganda.
It's a blatant lie.
This is the same garbage Rudy Giuliani, Trump's henchman. It's a last-ditch effort in this desperate campaign to smear me and my family. And the vast majority of the intelligence people have come out and said there's no basis at all.
Hunter's computer is part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
You put the combination of Russia, Giuliani, the president together. It's just what it is. It's a smear campaign because he has nothing he wants to talk about. What is he running on?
It's a blatant lie.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
What about Hunter, Mr. Vice President? There's been questions about conflicts of interest with him as well as your brother. Can you describe what sort of mechanisms you're going to put in place to avoid conflicts of interest, whether you knew your brother who's been accused of, let's say, trying to use your campaign to further his business interests? You knew anything about that? And
well, first of all, I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their business.
The owner of this repair shop in Biden's home state of Delaware says when he didn't hear back from the FBI, he made a copy of the hard drive and gave it, managed to find his way to Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Now, in the US, this has been quite a bombshell in the final leg of the presidential campaign, and not just because of the actual contents of the email, but because of the issue of censorship. Twitter has censored the New York Post story, claiming, with absolutely no proof, that the contents contained hacked material. The tech giant, of course, has allowed the spread of other stories that contain either hacked or illegally obtained material, like the president's tax returns or Melania Trump's phone calls, or even Julian Assange's many data dumps on WikiLeaks or Snowden's information. In censoring this story from a legitimate media outlet from the New York Post, Twitter is acting against the United States tradition enshrined in the Constitution of a free press.
It's a blatant lie.
Think about it. If someone had hacked your laptop and put out forged emails that was trying to hurt your dad, wouldn't you go to the first TV camera and say, "Hello, these are fake"? He didn't do that. Why were they using burner phones to conduct foreign business dealings?
And look, the American people have a right to know what Joe Biden and his family have been up to.
Sitting with Jim Biden and Hunter Biden, and Joe came through the lobby with his security, and Hunter introduced me as, this is Tony, Dad, the individual I told you about that's helping us with the business that we're working on and the Chinese.
The Vice President has said he had no knowledge whatsoever of his son's business dealings and was not involved in them.
Yeah, that's a blatant lie. Remember looking at Jim Biden and saying, how are you guys getting away with this? Like, aren't you concerned? And he looked at me and he laughed a little bit and said, plausible deniability. I want to simplify this for the American people as much as I can. On May 13th, that email was sent from James Gillier to me. I didn't generate that email. James Gilliard generated that email. And in that email, James Gilliard goes through intimate detail of what each individual's requests were from a compensation perspective and how the equity in the enterprise would be divvied up. Very important. May 13th, that email was generated by somebody else to me. In that email, there's a statement where they go through the equity. Jim Biden's referenced as 10%, doesn't say Biden, it says Jim. And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. That's crystal clear to me because I lived it. I met with the former vice president in person multiple times, and I had been meeting and talking with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden and Rob Walker and James Gilliard. Where the media has tried to hide, and I personally feel it's disgusting, is between that May 13th email and the final document that was executed called Oneida Holdings, LLC. In Oneida Holdings, LLC, the equity is broken up 20% Hunter Biden, 20% Jim Biden. Well, there are LLCs that represented them.
Right.
20% James Gilliard, 20% Rob Walker, and 20% me and my investment entity. What I'd ask the American people to read and look at is how from May 13th to the final Oneida document that got executed, did Jim Biden go from a 10% owner to a 20% owner? That's not my question to answer. I'm sure there were discussions within the Biden family. I wasn't privy to that discussion. But this is Jim Biden, the brother of the potential future president of the United States. It's not a distant cousin. It's not an employee. It's his brother who in documents defines himself as a political advisor to his brother. And so I'll leave that to the American people.
Vice President is lying again. Check out page 78 of our report where we show a Chinese company, CFC, transfer about $5 million to business controlled by Hunter Biden. He also said, well, he's lying about the fact that, said that he never spoke to his son Hunter about his overseas business connections.
To that sketchy energy company out of Ukraine, Burisma, the one that paid all that money to Hunter Biden? According to reports in the Washington Examiner as well as Breitbart, 2 of Adam Schiff's team members worked at something called the Atlantic Council, which was a think tank, which Breitbart says is funded by this Ukrainian company, Burisma.
And knowing that if left in office, he will continue to seek foreign interference in the next election, to vote to convict on both articles of impeachment, and to remove from office Donald J. Trump.
Okay, so think about that. A couple of Schiff team members worked at a think tank that allegedly, reportedly, was funded by Burisma? And it gets worse, because there are also reports now that the alleged whistleblower worked with one of Schiff's team members at the National Security Council.
So to summarize, Adam Schiff, who was investigating President Trump for looking into Burisma, sends his own staffer on a trip to Ukraine that's paid for in part by Burisma. That's not Adam Schiff's only questionable connection to Ukraine, however, as it appears he has lingering contact with a shady Ukrainian oligarch, Igor Pasternak. The Kazakhstan-born billionaire now manages his own aerospace company called Worldwide Aeroscorp, which, among other things, fulfills defense contracts for Ukraine and the United States. But Pasternak also has a hand in siphoning money to prominent politicians in both parties, including Adam Schiff. Back in 2013, he held a fundraiser for Schiff at his Washington, D.C. mansion, where guests were charged up to $2,500 for attending. All checks were to be made payable to Adam Schiff for Congress. After that, Schiff went to bat for Pasternak, and Schiff's lobbying firm even managed to secure a $60 million contract from the Pentagon for one of Pasternak's projects. But that's clearly not an example of quid pro quo. Adam Schiff also appears to be financially connected to at least 2 U.S. corporations tied to the $7.4 billion corruption scandal involving Ukrainian gas giant Burisma. Schiff's own financial records reveal he was invested in BlackRock and Franklin Templeton Investments, both of which were named in a money laundering scheme by Ukrainian lawmakers. None of this will ever be mentioned by the mainstream media. But it seems clear that if Democrats actually want to look at foreign collusion, the best place to start would be in their own party.